Hey everyone, this is Daniel, and in today's video, we're going to talk about Power Apps Scrolling Gallery. Now, what I'm going to show you does look a lot like an image carousel, but it's not. Because what we'll be using is one full image gallery on the top, which always displays one image, but below it, there'll be another gallery. And that gallery shows you which image you are on. It also gives you the functionality to go ahead and fast forward to the front or back, or even randomly click any one of them. And it will also go ahead and automatically reverse to the beginning. So it actually goes and repeats it automatically. So stick around because we'll be using a whole bunch of things. We'll be using galleries, the filter and if functions, and even the global variables. So stick around, it'll be fun. But first, here's my intro video. So let's get started. Now, before we start building this app, I want to show you what the finished product looks like. So here it is. It's a mobile app, and over here are some image, and this is what looks like the carousel-ish type of effect. So as I start scrolling to the right and I start clicking over here, you can see that the images are changing, but also watch how this section is changing. All of those dots are moving in as if it's telling you which image you are on. So as I click over here, it's telling you that, hey, you are on the third image and you've got so many more images to go. And so as I keep clicking on it, it'll go, and as you can see, I'm going to click faster. And then once you reach towards the end, it'll automatically rewind back to the front. That's a very big feature which doesn't come out of the box in Power Apps. But then the other thing I'm going to do is if I go to the left, if I keep going, it'll go ahead and reverse to the back again automatically. And you can also go and randomly select any one of them. So you see, you've got this full fidelity functionality between either selecting on the top, or either direction that you want to go, or you can go ahead and randomly pick from the bottom. This carousel-ish type of effect is not available out of the box, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. So the data source is a SharePoint list, and I just want to quickly review that with you. All you can see over here is a list, and the list has some attachments. But there's a few important things that you need to know. What I have done is I've actually created a column, and this is a numerical column, a number value column, and this is what I call the order. This is a very key information that I'm going to be using to actually create that slider type of an effect. And some of you may be thinking that, Daniel, why didn't you just use the list ID information? And I could have done that because SharePoint by default does give you an ID column. But every once in a while, you might have that situation where you've added an item, you've deleted it, you've gone ahead and done some changes, and your IDs are not in order. That can cause a bit of a problem in this effect that I'm going to show you. So therefore, just to be fully clear and you take control of how it works, add another column, call it order, call it whatever you want, but that's where you go ahead and add the numerical values, and then you don't have to worry about what your actual IDs are. So that's the key one over here. And the attachments, these are the places where I've actually added the images. So I don't have a URL which is pointing to another picture library. No, I just added as an attachment, and we will use that attachment to go ahead and load. So this is the SharePoint list. Now let's start working on building the app. All right, so what I've done is I've just gone ahead and started with the shell app. What I mean by shell is I've just gone ahead and created the mobile app, and I added a few of these controls to add the look to it, but nothing else, no formulas, nothing. That's what we're going to do. Also, I went and built a data connection. I added that connection to that SharePoint list that we just talked about. All right, so we've got the app just here. Now let's go and start adding all that functionality. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my app. I'm going to click on the app, and on the apps on start, I'm going to go ahead and populate two variables. I'm going to actually create the two variables and populate them using the set function. And here's what those ones are. I'm going to call the first one as set var item, and I'm going to set that one to 1. That's the one that's going to keep, this variable is the one that's going to keep track on which item you are on. And by default, I wanted to start on the first one. So therefore, we have the set var item. Next is going to be keeping track of the total number of rows or total number of items that we have. This is what makes it dynamic, because when I said dynamic, I meant that you could go ahead and use this app for other libraries, change that library. It doesn't care how many items you have because I'm automatically going to go ahead and keep track of that. So here's the formula for that. I'm going to call this as set var total rows. I'm going to call it as, and then I'm going to call the count rows. And after that will be the models, which is the SharePoint list, and I'll go ahead and close it. Now, granted, we did go ahead and get a little bit of a delegation warning, but keep in mind, this is a scrolling library. So this is not the type of things where you're going to have 500 items or 2,000 items. You're just going to have a very limited amount. So in this case, I am okay with putting the delegation over here. Just thought I'll call that out. And then we'll go ahead and now click on this right, and we'll just do a run on start, which means the variables have been populated. Sweet. So we've got the variables now. Now let's go and add some of the design aesthetic piece over here. So if you remember the demo I just showed you, the first thing we had was something which gave this nice border effect. It was basically the outdoor border. And over there, I actually went ahead and used a button because that's the one that gives me this nice effect. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and first grab the button. I'll place it in a nice place over here. And then I'll go ahead and rename this one to say main gallery border button. All right, so that's good. But I got to go ahead and now clear some stuff up. First of all, I don't need this text. So I'll go and remove this text. I don't need the fill. Now you can go ahead and start cleaning stuff over here. Like I don't need this fill. So I'll take that out. In the fill itself, I'll go ahead and make that this way. And also when you start hovering over it, sometimes you have this effect. I'll go and show it to you. You have this effect. So at the hover fill, you got to go ahead and remove that as well. So I'm going to go and select that. And if you go to the right over here, you start seeing this color. So this hover color, I'm going to click on that one. And you can actually go ahead and just wipe that off, delete it. That's good. And then we got to go ahead and give it a little bit of a border. So what the border is, it's right now is set to 2 and it's at this color. I'll go ahead and now change the color of the border to something randomly. I'll go and select this and now I actually have this effect. And then I want to go and give this a little bit more radius around it. So by default, it is at 10. I'll go and change that to 50. And now I've got this nicer border. And then you can go ahead and increase it, make it more thick, more thin. That's completely up to you. You just go and decide how much you want its variables to be over there. So I am good for this right now. So we'll just continue now with going in and adding the things inside it, which means we're going to start working with collections. Well, I said collections, but I actually meant galleries. So on the top in the insert menu, I'm going to come over here to the gallery, click on the drop down. I'm going to select horizontal. So that is going to be our first gallery. So I'll select gallery. I'm going to rename that because that's going to be our main gallery, the one on the top. And over here, I'll actually first just bring it down just enough a little way. And I'll also go and click on it because I'm going to go and select the gallery's actual data source, which is the 3D models. So that's the first thing that's going to be there. And then we'll just go and actually get some information coming in the image itself. Since it is a SharePoint list attachment, I'm going to go ahead and actually, you can either use the first or the last for this formula, but here's basically what it is that this item attachments, copy it, click, and I'm going to use the absolute URI. And this is basically how you're going ahead and getting all the information. You see all the images comes in. This is how you know, even if it's an attachment, this is how you use the attachment. So if this is the first time you're seeing it, awesome. This is how you use it. This item dot attachments dot absolute URI. All right, this will work for your SharePoint list. All right, so let me now just do a little bit of cleanup. I'm going to go ahead and kind of centerize it a little bit, grab this one in, the whole effect of the library, of the collection. Move that in a little bit right here. I want to get it inside that cursor effect. not cursor effect, but inside the actual button that we went and created. All right, click on that. In fact, click outside a little bit. Go ahead and fill that up. Let me see if I can increase the image a little bit. On the right, it's on fit. Maybe I can try fill. That's too much. Stretch. Sometimes that looks, you know what? Fit actually looks really good. So we'll leave it at that. The shelf itself, the actual name, I'm going to go ahead and take out the display mode from edit. I'm going to replace that to view. I'll go to home. I'll go over here to the center, make it, and I think I'm good. This one for right now, which actually shows me the ID, which is the order, is good. I'll keep it over here for now so that we can actually see the comparison that's going on. But then later on, we can go ahead and make that invisible, which means go and toggle this control off. All right. So we are done with that gallery. Let's go and also add the gallery below. What I'll do is I'll actually go and just grab this gallery. I'll do a Control C, Control V. I'm going to go ahead and now rename this one. I'll go call this one not as the main gallery. I'm going to call this as the scroll gallery. That's good. And I'm going to bring that down a bit. We need to delete a few stuff. First of all, we don't need the image. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the image. Yes, that error is over there because I just need to move it. And there we go. I'll go ahead and move this down a little bit. This one, we've got to go ahead and do a little bit of a designing work. So we don't need that big text. I'll go ahead and remove that. Yeah, I just need to move this one out a little bit. In fact, you'll give it a little 0. That's good. Always happens over here. In fact, I go and click on that again because it's going to ask for a Y. That's fine. I can go ahead and make that 0 as well. Right there. And then I also need to give it a little bit of a width. So I'm going to come back into my width size. I'm going to give it, say, 10. That way I can actually see it. I'll go ahead and zoom in. Again, just minor design aesthetics, nothing fancy over here, right? So I'll just keep that for you right now. But the other thing I'm going to do is inside the gallery. So I'm going to come up to the top icon over here. I'll just scroll down. And the one that I want is circle. So right there, give it on the circle. Select that, and I'm going to make this a little bit smaller because I'm going to go ahead and have this full effect. Now, to make sure that my circle is currently a perfect circle, I'll come to the right where there's properties, and I'm going to change the height and width to match. This is how basically I'm going to do it. All right, so that way we always get the perfect circle. Cool. So I'm going to again make sure that I have enough space. So I'm going to click on this one outside, and I'll come over here, and I'm going to go ahead and start dragging this because we've got quite a few over here. In fact, right now, let me just make this one a little bigger because that's what we've got. We've got 10 items. Perfect. Now we can go ahead and add a border around this. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and select the same button one over here. That's the button one. So all the way Control C, Control V. I'll go and pull that one down because all we're going to do is actually make that a little bit smaller. So I'm just going to go ahead and zoom out a little bit. Go ahead and bring this one down. And again, this is all about design and aesthetic piece. So you will be constantly tweaking this, ever so slightly again and again until it looks just right. Okay, but you get the point. So from right now over here, I can go and now populate this with a little bit of a coloring. So if you actually remember again in my demo, this one's fill actually gave it a little color. And then I got to go ahead and order it, send it backward a little bit so that I can actually see it back. And then it gives you a little nice feel. Now its border in my design, I had gone ahead and actually completely taken it out. So it just looks nice, but you get the idea, right? This all I'm going to do is show you the ideas. You can go and tweak it and fine tune it. Sweet. So now we've got the two important galleries done, and we need the two galleries to communicate with each other. And that's when we're going to start adding all the if and filter functions. So first thing we'll do is we'll start with the one on the bottom, which is over here. We're going to start with this one. And specifically on that circle in its on select, here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the variable item on, and I'm going to make it to this items dot order. That's what I'm going to do. So if I were to go and select this one, that variable item will become 1. If I were to select that one, it'll be 2, so on and so forth. So every time I do the on select, that value happens. Now you kind of already guessed it. The moment I do that selecting, this filter on the top or this gallery on the top needs to get filtered based on that. So you guessed it, this one's item. So I went and selected the top gallery. Over here, we're going to use the filter function. I'm going to put filter function before that. I'll come over here, put comma. I'll go ahead and actually just make sure that it picks up the order column right there, which is right there, order equals, you guessed it, var item. So right there, it will now go ahead and automatically filter it because by default I've gone ahead and selected 1. So you see that first thing, the scroll bar disappeared. All we have is 1. So we can actually test this right now. If I were to go and select 4, bam, the 4 shows up. If I go and select on 8, it shows up. So you kind of see what's going on. We've already started building that relationship. It's really fun and exciting. And since you just focused on this piece over here, I'll go back to select that and I'm going to tweak it on with its filter function. So in the filter function, I'm going to go ahead and do an if statement. If, and I'll go and call this as this item ID order equals the var item, then go ahead and give me this color. Otherwise, I just want a light faded version of this color. So I'm actually going and doing a select all. I'm going to go and paste it. And I'm going to change that 1 to say 0.5 and I'll go and close it. So you see, I'm going to kind of maintain the same color. I'm just going to go and fade it out a little bit. And that really helps because if I would now go and select this one, that gets highlighted. And you see, this is so close to like the mobile apps that we see, which actually has the same effect over there. This is taking your UI and UX to a whole different level. Pretty awesome. All right, so now let's switch gears a little bit and focus on the top one over here because we kind of did some tweaking around. We'll come back to do a little bit more cleaning up over here, but I want to focus a little bit on this side is because over here, we should have the flexibility now to move to one on the right or one on the left. I want that flexibility given over there. So I know what some of you are already thinking. It's like, hey, that's easy, Daniel. The gallery already has that. So I'll show you what I mean because it doesn't work, but I want to prove that to you. So I'll actually select it. I'm going to click on the main. And as you can see, we already have the show navigation turned on. And just for whatever reason, if I were even to go toggle it off, I could toggle it back on. Normally, I should be able to see the arrows pointing on either direction. In fact, at least on the right, because we've got more over here. But it's not showing up. Why? Because we added the filter function. So the gallery only thinks that, oh, there's only one, so I don't need to add that over there. So that idea immediately became a because we can't use that functionality. So now we've got to go ahead and add our own little pieces over there, our own icons to go left and right. So let's go and do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to X out over here. I'm going to come on to the insert on the top. I'm going to click on icons. And for this one, I'll just randomly select something. And over here, I'll go ahead and just type in on the search right, do that. And that's a little tidbit I'm teaching because it's a good faster way to do it. And you can go and make this a little bit bigger. It's basically, use your aesthetics for this one. I'll go ahead and I'll call this as my right icon. And you guessed it, I'll just do a Control C, Control V, move that on the other side. And I like how these two lines show up to just show that I've placed it correctly. And over here, I'll come in on the icon search, I'll type in left, and we are done. So at least we got those two pieces cleared out. Coming here, click on left. Sweet. So now let's go and focus on what it is that we've got to put on that one. And this is where we start putting in some if functions, specifically on its on select. So here we go. All right. So I'm going to come up over here on its on select. I'm going to click over down there and I'm going to put in my if condition. So I'll open up the brackets and I'll hit enter. And here we go. We're going to start typing in over here. All right. So it's for the left. So here we're going to say var item, if the var item is greater than 1, and if the var item, again with the variable, var item is less than or equal to the var total rows, if that's the case, then go ahead and set the value of the var item, go ahead and reduce it by 1. And this is a very interesting thing if you're not aware of it. You can actually use that variable and take the same variable, subtract it or add it, and it just magically works. I mean, you see what I'm doing over here? I'm using that variable, I'm referencing that variable, but then I'm also going ahead and dividing it by 1, subtracting it by 1, and it still works. It doesn't give me any errors. That's the power of these formulas in Power Apps over here. But that's one scenario. Then I'm also going to say, but if the var item 1 is equal to 1, then go ahead and set the value of the var item to the exact same value of the total rows. And I'll go ahead and close it. So let's think about this. I know I went and typed a whole bunch. Let's think about this. So let's focus on the first line. Okay. So what we are saying is that if you fall in any of this category where you're existing, whether you are on anywhere greater than 1, because if you're anywhere on 2 or anything greater than that area, and if you're less than equal to the total, which means anywhere you're on 2 or up to the 10, if you're in that, if somebody clicks the left, go ahead and subtract by 1, which makes sense because if you are on 2, the only place you want to go is one more over here, all right? That's how that works. But that applies for other places. If you were on 6, if somebody clicked over here, go on 5. If you were on 3, if somebody clicked to the left, go on 1. So it kind of makes sense. Go on 2, makes sense. However, if you are on 1 and if somebody clicked over here, I want you to go straight back to 10 over here. You see how it goes ahead and automatically scrolls back on the top, to the other side. So if you were over here and if you were on the first one, it'll automatically go back to the last item. And then we're going to replicate that for the other side as well. So is it making sense now how this formula is working? And you pretty much guessed it. We're going to do something similar on the right side. So normally I would do a copy and paste, but for this video, I want to show it to you. So make sure that you've selected the right one. And over here, we're going to go ahead and put in another if function. And you know my style, so I go ahead and put in the if function first. And here we go. I'm going to say the var item. If the var item is greater than 0, and if the var item is less than the var totals, then go ahead and just add the existing item of the var item. Var item plus 1, and that takes care of that. Now we're going to also complete the exact same thing, that if the var item equals the var totals, all right? If it equals it, then go ahead and basically set the value to 1. So I'm going to go and do that, and I'm going to var item, copy it to 1. All right, so let's think about this scenario, all right? Remember, we are focusing on the right, which means we're going to keep adding by 1. So in this scenario, that if you are greater than 0 and less than the total item, which means you're somewhere in this range. If you're at 1 up to 9, if you're in this range, and if somebody clicks to the right, then just go ahead and add the item by 1, which means you're going to keep incrementing it to 1, to 2, to 2, 3, so on and so forth. However, if you are at 10, which is the total value, if you are at 10, and if somebody comes and clicks that, then automatically go back to 1. Therefore, we've set this over here. And this is why I've gone ahead and used the var totals, and we went ahead and actually appended the var totals in the beginning, because now I don't care how that SharePoint list or anywhere else data source you come from, how many items we have. We are automatically calculating that using that variable, all thanks to this functionality over here. These are the formulas that automatically takes care of it, all right? Pretty powerful formulas, and if you understand this, you are in good shape. And you know what? I have every confidence that you are. But you know what else? we're actually done. Yeah, believe it or not, the work is completed because we've gone ahead and made this so dynamic that it will automatically go ahead and keep reversing back and forth, which means it'll loop automatically. And regardless of if you're selecting the ones on the top or you're selecting on the bottom, it still works. Let's test it. So I'm going to go up now to the preview and let's start over here. All right, actually, let's start over here. We're on number 1. So let's keep an eye on a few things. We got to keep an eye on these shadings over here, and we got to also make sure the numbers, all of them are working. So I'm going to click on right. It moved to the next one, but hey, this one also moved. Well, why did that happen? Well, we'll come to that. All right, so I'm going to click on that. It's working. All of this is good. But now is the ultimate test. After 10, what happens? Well, that if function that we wrote, if it is at 10, and if you do on the next click, it should automatically reset that number to 1. So if I click on it, it automatically did that reloop. But while we are here, let me just try the one on the left. If this one works, because the value is 1, and I'm still clicking on this left side, that value should automatically become the total sum of those, the total values, which is 10, and therefore it should jump over here. So I click on that, and there you go. It just works. And because for each of them, I also selected and I put in on select. If I click on it, it automatically works. So let's take a look at those one more time, all right? So we come back, the moment I'm selecting on over here, what's happening? I click on that one, and it's on select, the actual on select over here. When I go and click on the on select, did you remember that we put the set value? The set value takes whatever is this value and puts it to the var item. And because that happens, the var item automatically goes ahead and filters the gallery, and we get that value. So you see how it's all working now? It's kind of all making sense. And then the same thing over here. In this, if you click on the left side, we just went ahead and populated these formulas. And because all the updating is happening to the var item, this entire gallery gets updated because this gallery over here, that's the one that is dominating using the var item. So it's working, and it's working really well. Now, the final things that you have to do is just a little bit of cleaning up. All you're going to do is now, I don't need to see this one. So I can go and either delete it, or I can go and click on off. I usually will just toggle it off. And then you can do a little bit more designing. You can make this a little bit more smaller. You can go ahead and make this a little bit more smaller, a little bit more designing. Same thing over here. I would just go ahead and now take this guy a little bit up. The numbers, I can go ahead and now hide the numerical values. Once I do that, I'll have to just make sure that my entire button side is a little bit perfectly aligned. But that's basically it. You can go ahead and do all of this little redesigning. And then if you want to take it to the next level, try making it a little responsive. Go ahead and use the X and the Y's and the height and the width to make it a little bit more responsive. I have just shown you how you can take a carousel type of effect, but using all the functions and using the galleries, we were able to replicate the whole thing. So as a quick recap, we were able to replicate that image carousel type of an effect in Power Apps using a combination of a gallery, a data source, and a combination of some functions. Plus, we did some thinking outside the box because in one gallery, we actually displayed the images from a data source. But in another gallery with the same data source, we made it look like a navigation bar. See, that thinking outside the box really helps. So hopefully this was helpful to you. And as always, keep using Power Apps. Hey everyone, hopefully you found this video useful. And if you did, can you help me help you? Can you subscribe to this YouTube channel? Because remember, I provide fresh content on a weekly basis and it's 100% free. So if you have subscribed, thank you so much and pass the word. But if you haven't, subscribe, click on the bell notification and let the learning begin.